On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So if saving money was on your 2024 list, your odds aren't looking that great. Luckily, I have a 100% guaranteed way to save you money this year. Just switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's limited-time deal and get premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/WCB. That's mintmobile.com/WCB. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/WCB. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
The Outdoor Drive Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Outdoor Drive Podcast. Happy New Year. Yes, it is a new year, new me, new you. How is that going? Episode 225 with your host, East Coast Trev, and I'm joined with the madman himself, Madman Mardik. Woo!
Bro, Happy New Year. It's crazy. I feel like we just recorded a New Year's Eve special yesterday.
You know, it's funny as you ring in the new year and we get towards the end of the year, shit goes wrong, right? Like things just cannot be right. Like I just don't get it. Like, you know, we've had just a year of crappiness and then we got a swift kick right in the shins as it comes down to it. We actually recorded the podcast, then lost the podcast. My computer broke. Like it just cannot get any better. But you know what? We're here, and we're gonna keep this thing rolling live, dude. So, what's up, Mardik?
I feel like we're just ending the year as the whole year kind of went. It's kind of par for the course of just, you know, catastrophe after catastrophe. But we keep rolling. We keep taking a licking and keep on ticking.
It is, and you know, with the big plans for the 2024, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to start the year off right. We're back at ATA. Myself after, dude, I haven't been there since 2019 was the last time that I was there. So we'll start it off right, and we'll start by going there and seeing what's up, dude. So it was good. I you know, as a recap, you know, screw it. I'm not even going to get into it. A recap of the season, I'm definitely thankful for the ones that we've worked with throughout the season. And one of the things that kind of makes them all important is we choose the ones that we work with very selectively, right? So like Huntworth. Huntworth is one of those, they're the title sponsors of the Outdoor Drive, the only camo that we wear here. And it's because we believe in them. We're able to reach out and have conversations with Karen and Nate Sellers and all the people and all the staff of Huntworth and work with those guys so closely. And we actually believe in them. And it's the same with Latitude, and it's the same with Nor'easter, and it's the same with Bowhunting United. Like, it's just the way that it goes. Like, we pick and choose them very selectively. We're not just doing it to do it. So, like, we can't thank them, and we wouldn't have had a great 2023 season if it wasn't for those guys, honestly. I mean, they're the ones that helped us out and made us feel better, I guess, right?
Yeah. I can honestly say, and you don't see this very often throughout the hunting industry, I can honestly say, sponsor or not sponsor, I would still be using the same gear I'm using today. So I'm not using it because they're a sponsor. If Latitude was not a sponsor, I would still be rocking a Latitude saddle, platforms, and sticks. If Huntworth wasn't a sponsor, I'd still be wearing Huntworth gear.
Well, and
by choice.
yeah, absolutely by choice.
Right.
It was, I worked with Latitude for a little bit and then we didn't. They had their trials and tribulations. We did whatever. We kind of rekindled our relationship and then ended up working with each other, but we both had this same exact conversation where like even if we don't end up like signing a contract with them, we're still going to use their stuff. Like I'm still going to use the Carbon SS sticks. I'm still, like honestly, we didn't even know if we were going to work with them and I went and bought the Carbon SS sticks. So I bought a set of them, then later on selling them after I had gotten my set through the sponsorship like there was a reason for that because I believed in them and it was something I wanted to use. Like I'm not afraid to buy a product and that's
Right.
one of the things. I mean that kind of, I know it's kind of personal and stuff, but like it I would still buy all that stuff. Like I still buy products all the time. I don't care about sponsorship aspect. Like we have sponsorships with certain people, but I don't even tell the people that we're sponsored with, and I still buy stuff from them because
Right.
I
Yeah.
want it.
Same.
Like it's just the way
I,
that it
I'll tell
goes.
you what, those sticks are so incredible. I'm like a little kid. I still, every single time I go in the woods, I still like chuckle a little bit when I start setting them up because I just love them so much. As soon as I break them out and start putting them on the tree, I'm like, these things are amazing.
Well, it's so I sold mine to Chris Bittman, and I met up with him and stuff, and I told him about him and whatever else. And then he sent me a message. He's like, dude, I'm so glad that I got these sticks from you. Like, I love these things. Like, they're awesome. And I was like, I told you, man. Like, they're just packable. They're light. They're user friendly. Like, it's just amazing. And what's funny is you look through all of the forums and all this stuff, and guys are talking about them, and like compared to other brands that are out on the market, like there's very minuscule bad reviews on them. Maybe one or two or whatever, but like there's very little bad
Mm.
things said about them. And that's all the products that we use. That's like Huntworth. Like we use that because we believe in it. Like that product is a product where one of the things, and it's I pride on this and I've made this mistake and now changed my outlook on it. Like when I say something, because you have to remember the listenership comes to us for advice, right? Like not
Mhm.
real, like they're listening to learn something or just hear stupid shit that comes out of our mouths. Probably more. That's probably 90% of it, but 10% of it. They're then we talk about these products all the time, and I would hate to ever meet up with somebody or see somebody at a show or whatever the case may be, or even on the Facebook page where the guy would be like, Trev said that was the greatest call in the world, and I got it, and it sounds like a squirrel, but it's really supposed to be a turkey." Like, I pride on that. Like, I know when I say Huntworth is the warmest piece of equipment that I wear, sub zero, I believe in that. And it
Right.
actually is the truth, the things that come out of my mouth. I'm not going to say, like, oh, I'm sponsored by X company and I wear their stuff sub zero, but it's actually only rated for like 55. Like, I would never do that because it's like,
Right.
if I'm not gonna wear it or I'm not gonna use it in that situation, I'm not gonna tell you that. Like
Mm.
I'll just not. So like those things we actually believe in, and that's one of the things with like Heat Boost. Like Heat Boost is one of those products. Like, dude, when you walk in, if you have to walk more than 200 yards, don't ever put Heat Boost on. You will die. Like that's
Mm.
you'll sweat. Like literally sweat to death. Like not a good idea.
You know what? A new piece from Huntworth that turned into being one of my favorite and most worn pieces this year. It surprised you. You're not going to get it right.
The new
I know
bibs.
what you're. Yes,
Yeah.
the Elkins bibs, dude. Because as far as keeping warm, my legs don't usually get cold, right? Like
Mhm.
my upper body, my core, I have to take care of more than my legs. So like even on the colder days of November and early December, I may wear a heat boost upper jacket
Mhm.
or or like maybe an Elkins jacket with like a heat boost vest over it.
Mhm.
But I wore those Elkins bibs a ton this
Mhm.
year, and especially in the saddle it's sweet having those bibs because you can't nothing can ride up on your back between the saddle and all that stuff. Like I was thoroughly impressed with those Elkins bibs.
I'd have to agree, and I think the hoodies now having a heat boost hoodie was a big thing.
Yeah.
Then the Elkins bibs were definitely one of those pieces of equipment that are like, oh, I have to have it. Like, it's funny. Like, as far as like the years go on, like if you were to think 3 years ago, the gear that I had 3 years ago to the gear that I have today, I feel as if I can confidently hunt any situation with the stuff I have and be very comfortable. Like the clothing, the saddle equipment, you know what I'm saying? Like both of us have gone from being stand hunters, like 100% stand hunting out of a ladder stand, to then mobile hang and bang, to now fully saddle hunting over a course of 6 years, 7 years. You know what I'm saying? Like constantly in the saddle. Like I am strictly a saddle hunter. I very rarely do I have maybe 2 presets. Like I don't, and that equipment that I'm using is next to none, probably some of the best equipment that there is, and I believe in that equipment. Like I'm super mobile. And one of the things that adds to it, right, is like I'm filming. So that gear weighs so much. So I have to have very light gear, and that's where the carbon sticks come in. That's where the Rebel platform comes in. Super light, packable. I need to keep it small, and that's, you're loading it up in that hickory pack, and it all fits nice, small, light, and it wears well. Like it's just it all works together. We have like the most uniform um
System.
It's literally a system, and we've built a uniform system, in my opinion. So, I was excited, dude. Like it was good going in and knowing I was gonna be warm.
Yeah.
That my shit was gonna work right. It had
Yeah.
like there's nothing like
It,
going to a tree and being like, oh, this is gonna suck, right?
yeah, it's funny because every night so I'm everybody that's mobile is pretty much like this, right? Like everything has a place in the backpack.
Mm-hmm.
Like the release always goes here, the headlamp always goes here, you know, your quivers here on your bow, your sticks go here, your platform, like everyone's got their own spot, right? And everything doesn't always get put back absolutely perfect at the end of a hunt. So the night before I go hunting, I always go through everything, make sure everything's wrapped up perfect, everything's put away. But it's funny because every morning when I get up and I get ready to hunt and I'm putting on my hunt worth and I'm grabbing all my gear, like I feel like it's Saturday morning before a high school football game. Like it's game time, baby. And you're putting up all your gear, you're taping up, you're ready to go. And
Mm-hmm.
I just get excited every single time because my gear's so good. I just love every single thing I have, like genuinely. And I just feel like I'm ready for anything.
I'd have to agree. And one of the things, like, this season for myself, right? Like going into the deer season, like not having a lot of scouting time because, with the new job and fishing, and not having that August, that July, that June, like
Mm,
it killed me. It absolutely killed me. So like when September came, October came, November came, and I would go to the back of the truck, I knew confidently that I was going into the woods, and the least of my problem was making sure that I had the right stuff for the job that I was trying to do, right? And I think that, you know, as a whole, and you guys that are listeners that listen all the time, like know that I was going into into the season to just hunt good woodsmanship, right? Like there was no intel, there was no hunting, but one of the things that set it aside was not having to worry about the tools that I had to do it. Like I could just hunt and hunt in the back of my mind the way that I wanted to hunt. Like I could go in, follow sign and hunt. And I did get stuck up. Like we found, scouting together, and it was an X. Like it was just a full blown X, as we would say in the waterfowl world. Like I was in the zone, dude. Like just going in, finding that area, working that area, from scouting with Steve, and like it was it, dude. It was dead on. Like I've never been in the position other than hunting in the Midwest where I've seen that many deer in hunts. Like no way, bro. Like I literally thought I was in the Midwest at some points with the amount of deer that I actually saw. Like, I was blown away. I don't think there was a hunt that I didn't see 2 to 3 deer every single hunt that I
Right.
hunted.
Yeah.
Like, it was wild. Like, and I only hunted one property the whole entire season. Like, literally hunted one property. It's a big piece of property, but like, I hunted certain small little spots within that property and was on deer every single time, and I didn't have to worry about stupid things with my gear. Like, it was just on, dude. It was nice to have everything, just kind of put together and just be able to hunt, Like, I didn't run cameras. I ran 2 cameras all season, dude, and that's not normal for me. Like, I own 12 cell cameras. Like, it was nice. It was cheap on the pocket because I didn't have to buy batteries and plans
Dude, I
and
went
everything.
through a ton of batteries this year.
I will say
Mo-
this.
More than usual. I don't know if it's because I was just getting more pictures than usual, but there was some cameras where it's like, Jesus, the battery's already at 40% already. I don't know what was. Maybe China's just making some shitty batteries now. I don't know.
I'm super impressed with the Moultrie Edge system.
Yeah.
I will say that the Moultrie Edges, with all the cameras I've ever ran, I've been running Moultries now for 3 years. I had some of their older products, and I got 2 edges. I bought 2 edges this year because I had to let my other one soak, so I just ended up just buying
Big
2.
stoker.
Yeah, I had to go and get 2, 2 new. They had them on sale at Cabela's. Like, it was like
Yeah.
$109 for 2 Moultrie Edges. So I went and I bought the Moultrie Edges, and I'll tell you this is I put those cameras in October 31st or October 29th. I put them October 29th. Today is December almost 31st, 30th. And I will tell you this, that those cameras still have 80% or better on batteries. It's wild.
Now, you put 8 or 16 in.
So I put 16 batteries
Yeah.
in, alkaline.
Why would? All right.
I
Yep.
did not run lithiums inside of them.
No, me neither.
And I didn't. Dude, do you know how many times I would have to go in and change batteries on any other brand other than those? Like, even the Moultries, the other Moultries, I'd have to change them 2 or 3 times in a season.
Mm.
And I was blown away. I'm like, dude, this is. Hands down, I will sell every single camera and only have Moultrie Edges because I am so happy with them and their products. Their HD videos, like, what
Yeah.
a fucking product, dude.
Yeah. They built that little algorithm for you too, which is cool. So check this out. So I'm a Tacticam guy. I have 5 Tacticams.
Mm-hmm.
I like them. They don't, I'm a fan. That's my company that I use.
Right.
I want a Moultrie Edge at Huntstock
Right.
on the insider party the night,
Yeah.
that Thursday night. I came home from Huntstock. I put my new Moultrie Edge on my scrape. Big, just say it's a good spot.
Active.
I put it in September. No, that's a lie. I'm sorry. Let me go back. The first picture it took, there's me right there. That's a good looking guy right there. August 20th was
Okay.
the first picture taken. There's 85% battery today.
And do you run 6 or 16 or 8 or 16?
16.
Yep.
85%. That's insane. Do you know how many times
How many photos did that take?
A lot.
It should tell you.
I don't know if it'll tell me.
It should tell you.
I don't know.
But anyways,
I'm
you
thoroughly
figure
impressed with 'em.
an entire deer season and you're still at 80 something percent. That's what I'm
85%.
saying. Like, dude,
I've got Tacticams that took half the amount of pictures, and I've changed batteries 3 times since then.
I'm
insane.
blown away. I'm blown away with it because like mine too, like one of mine. So one of the 2 Moultrie Edges, one of them's in a shit spot. It got a ton of pictures, but they were dumb pictures, like useless, right? But the other one was on, we'll say, it was on a game trail where a ton of deer came through, and B, it was on a scrape, so it was super active all the time, and like that thing probably took close to 1,000 pictures. over the course of the couple months that it was in there, and it's like I said, it's over 80% in
We got to
battery.
remember too, whether you're requesting it or not, it's still taking that 15-second video every time too.
Yeah, so I do picture and video. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So like,
Yeah, and the other thing too is being a Tacticam guy. When I won the Moultrie, I was kind of thinking about selling it or trading it
yeah, I would have bought it
to
from
get
you.
another Tacticam
Mhm.
to add another Tacticam to my plan. It's a lot easier to just add
Yeah.
another Tacticam to your current plan than to
Mhm.
start a whole nother plan with Moultrie. But I needed the camera. I didn't have time to really dick around, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna run it, see what happens. Sign up for the Moultrie Edge plan or whatever. And dude, I'm kind of sold. Like I might be trying to sell my Tacticams to get more
I
Moultrie Edges.
I'm blown away with the product. I really am, and it's not one that's like we work with or anything like that, but like I truly honestly believe in the product. Like hands down, great product. I mean it's good. And I used Moultrie before, dude. Like I've been using Moultrie for years, but the Edge is probably it's the cheapest on the market and the best, hands down. I mean the
Yeah.
plan's a little bit more, I guess, but
The
it's
only
worth
thing I'm
it.
curious about
And you can shut it
is
off. That's one of the things with it. You can shut it off monthly.
right. The only thing I'm curious, there's no SD card,
No,
which is
that's nice.
good. It's kind of good, right? But how many times have you heard people? Spy Point was big for it, and you hear talks about it with Tacticam too, where they're like, oh, it doesn't send you all the pictures. You know what I mean? Like you'll pull a Spy Point, and you pull the card at the end of the season, you put it in your computer, and you start going through, and every once in a while you'll see a picture, and you're like, I never got that picture. That picture never got sent to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could shit on Spy Point for it because it's not sending you all the pictures. Unfortunately, you don't know if Moultrie sent all the pictures or
Yeah.
not because there's no way to confirm it because you don't have that SD card backup. So maybe you're getting all the pictures, maybe not, but there's no way to tell.
Yeah,
You'll
that's
never
true.
know if it ever missed anything. But what you don't know can't hurt you. So I guess.
I think I'm not sure, and we'll have to do a little bit of research on it. But I think you can directly connect it to your computer, so it has to have a built-in SD card. It just doesn't have a removable SD card.
Correct. Yeah.
So you could technically still. I don't know. I have to mess around with it and play with it, and we'll come back on that. But I
Yeah.
think
I mean, I came back from hunt stock. I took it out of the box. I put 16 batteries in. It's been in a tree ever since. I
yeah.
spent 30 seconds with the thing.
Yeah. So my question is this, right? So as you know, as the season comes to the end, and I'll answer these same questions, but like, what did you think? What do you think? What do you think that you did right during the season? What do you think you did wrong, and what would you do differently?
Ooh, good question. I knew you were going to ask that though.
You
What
did.
No, I could sense it. I knew where you were going
Oh,
before
okay.
you.
I'm like, what? No, you didn't.
What was the question again?
You knew it. You sensed it. So fuck it. No.
It was 3 parts, dude. You gotta give me
All
one
right.
part.
So
At a time.
what did you do right in your season to be successful? What did you do wrong in your season to be successful, and what would you
All right.
change?
Right, I feel being super mobile with the saddle and
Mhm.
everything. I was able to bounce around tree to tree. I'm a big wind player, so every day, depending on the wind, I'm getting pretty dialed in with predicting thermals and knowing what the wind
Mhm.
direction is and what the thermals are supposed to do. I can kind of predict all that. So I was able to hop around from tree to tree and always put myself in a safe area to not overpressure my spots.
Mhm.
Because of that, I saw a ton of deer, and I got a ton of sits in this year, right? And even as you get into like mid to late December, a lot of times your sightings start to go down, especially if you're in timber and you're not like hunting a green food source or winter rye or something like that. I'm still seeing like 7 to 9 deer per sit in the timber. So to me, that's good that late in the season, right? So I didn't overpressure to that sense. What I did wrong was dude, I was all in on one spot this year.
Mhm.
And I knew it going in 100%. I wasn't oblivious to it. I remember, I remember recording with Greg Staggs and he was talking about the hop around method, and you need to have multiple shooter bucks and multiple areas on multiple properties, and I'm like, fuck, yep, I didn't, and I knew it, right, and I know I could have found other shooter bucks in different areas and had more options, but I don't think I would have found anything on the caliber of what I was looking for. So it was kind of hard to get up and go head east to hunt one caliber of
Mm-hmm.
deer when I knew there was another caliber of deer west. So I definitely, I don't want to say over pressured because, like I said, I had quality sits every time I sat, but I definitely like burnt myself out on one deer, one property. Didn't really, I might have changed the lookup in different trees, in
Yeah.
different sections, but I definitely didn't hunt a lot of different properties like I normally do. Like
Yeah.
historically, I have 4 or 5 solid places that I hop around to, and I just pounded one spot.
So I'm gonna piggyback because you know going into the season, right, like I had a big outlook on what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to do the hop around, was gonna hunt a bunch of
Mm,
different public, was gonna do a ton of different things, and then kind of so what I did right was I hunted hard, and I hunted the pieces where I wanted to hunt, I hunted them properly and was able to
right.
put myself into the position, and then hunting the sign. I wanted to hunt the sign. What was fresh and what was happening right then and there. Mid October, on them. November, on them. Like in the right spots. One of the things that I did wrong was not even that it was wrong, but I finally got into the caliber of deer, into the caliber of deer that I wanted to fucking shoot for the season, and then I got stuck on that. So it was like, I'm here, that's a shooter, and the thing is, and the thing that I did wrong was I fucking missed. Like it was it was there, right? Like
Yeah.
so the only thing I did wrong was I missed, right? And I guess it will call that great because I shot at the target deer that I was after for the season once I found him, and I was in his zone and I shot at him the end of October, the prime days in November, and then I seen him 2 other times after that. So I was in the zone, but I got so stuck up on that. And then after I had missed, and I had seen him twice, and then I just hunted that deer hard, and I just tried and tried and tried to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together, and then the season kind of fell apart for me where the one thing that would change would just be time, right? Like having the time and the more sits in the woods, right? So as the season progressively came on into the heavy teens and low 20s of November, like I was caught up in work, man. Like,
That's right. I forgot about that.
and it sucks, but like that was just what the year brought for me. Like not having the taxidermy business and having to focus on other things in life, like just life itself, just kind of put it where I wasn't able to hunt it hard, right? And
Right.
I didn't hunt shotgun really, maybe more than 1 or 2 sits, and I muzzle or hunted once, like, and I think that was the only thing. Like, and dude, I was super happy with the deer that I shot this year. I shot a nice doe for the freezer, and I shot an 8-pointer, which was probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. So, like, you can't say that it wasn't bad, but the one thing I did wrong was I fucking missed. And, playing it back, like, you can blame it on yourself filming and not. And I shot over my arm, and I instinctively just kind of jerk back, I guess, maybe one of the things. But after playing it back in my head, he was at 28 yards and I rolled the pin to 30. So 2 yard difference and then jerking back, thinking that you're going to shoot over the arm. I mean, there's your difference right there, right? And that's one of the things that kind of went wrong. But I can't complain, dude. Like going back on the footage constantly and all the deer, a lot of small young bucks and stuff. But knowingly now, if the food source and everything stays good, I know it's a good rut funnel for next year. So that deer is, in my opinion, dead. As far as like I'm gonna see him, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he was a young buck. I mean, he was
Do,
probably 3.5, 4.5 years old. He's gonna be something this year, this coming up season. I'm looking forward to that, and I want to go in and
do,
find his sheds.
do you think that because of the lack of scouting in that spot, um, you had hunted that section of woods earlier, right? But not as deep, we'll say.
Yeah.
Do you think that and there's other people hunting there too? This is public. Do you think the earlier season pressure that you and other people put on that for, we'll call it spot A, do you think it pushed those deer back? And as your quality of sits diminished in spot A, you relocated them in spot B? Or do you think they were already in B and you just found them there?
I think so. I think a lot of the things with B is, or spot two, right? I think that the spot with that is that's as I started to get into that layer. That layer was more, and by the time that I got into that layer, we were getting into that pre-rut,
Right.
spot. So it's a very good pre-rut spot. But in seeing the sign, the way that the sign laid there, that there was a lot of rutting sign in there. So it's more of a rut spot.
Historical. You're saying
Historical.
Yeah.
The amount of scrapes and rubs that are in there, like it's definitely it's in between beddings, and I think that it's that, I guess that area where like they just mend together, right? Where like those bucks start to show up in there. They're traveling corridor from one spot to another spot, like the way that the lay of the land is. So going back on the question, I think that those deer were already in B. I think that the deer that I was after in A definitely had a lot to do with pressure, whether it was my pressure or other people's pressure. I don't know. That deer never showed up back on those spots. I had that camera. That camera still sits in there. I
Yeah.
never saw the quality of deer that was in there. I never seen that deer. Like, that deer never showed back up on camera. But don't think for 1 second that September 1st or
Right.
August that I'm not going to have a camera in there and have a different move on him. He might move. He might live there. He might winter there, velvet, and then blow out of there once he starts to hardhorn. So that might be the
Right.
case too,
Well,
where
that was
that's
the other
his summoning spot.
That was the other thing I was thinking too with spot A. I don't want to spot burn because I
It's
know
okay.
there's people on there on Hunt Stand right now. Like, I know where they're talking about. Relation to ag in spot
Yeah.
A, water, and bedding. It's a perfect spot for that summer early season pattern, right?
Yeah.
And then then the season opens, they go hard horn, a little bit of pressure from you and other people hunting that first layer. Then spot B transitions to your classic, Oakwoods flat.
Mm-hmm.
The acorns are dropping, you're into the hardwoods, the scrapes start popping up. So I, I've I mean, obviously, we're going to get in there and actually scout it because this spot has very little scouting, very little boots on the ground,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
think a little postseason scouting, some shed hunting, really pick it apart this winter. I almost dare say you could go back to that and hunt it exactly like you hunted it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Spot, start in that first layer, see what happens, and then when you get back into that, we'll say mid-October when the oaks are really dropping, and then move back to that hardwoods flat.
And the other thing too is like that caliber of deer that we was laying down the sign, right? Say that caliber deer that we saw laying down the sign that was laying down. There was only 2 or 3 of them that showed up on camera, and one of them, and it was never in spot A. So maybe that deer could have been put into spot B, and we don't know that that's him, but we've yet to see him on camera in spot A. There was only one deer that had shown up in both spots, spot A and spot B, over the time that the cameras were out there, and it was like late November that they showed up on the scrape in spot B and then showed up on the scrape in spot A. So, and
okay, I remember that because we were looking at the timestamps and how much time was between the two pictures and trying to figure out what ground he covered.
And one of the things with that is like it's cool to watch that, like that having the camera there and only being like a mile and a half away from one another, like how long it took to get from spot A to spot B. Did they do a direct run there? Did that deer, was their deer, is that a normal travel corridor from them from spot A to spot B? So, like, I guess for me, like, and there being two different ways, like having ag, water, swamp, and then having straight hardwood swamp, like to kind of see if the same deer are in spot A to spot B, and there really weren't.
Right.
Like there
Right.
really there was very few same interactions with the same deer over a mile and a half, right? Like kind of wild to me, right? And definitely having, there's definitely does in both spots, right? Like heavy doe population in both spots. So like you would think that like maybe the bucks would go in both spots. But I was just blown away that in the show, like that those mature bucks, like when you start to put like a serious amount of pressure on them, like I made it went too hard or somebody else could have went too hard. The other thing that comes along with it is other pressured hunters, not only deer hunters but other style of hunters. There was pheasant.
Joggers.
What?
Joggers.
Joggers. There
Never
was
know.
joggers. There was guys going in there pheasant hunting.
Yeah. What
Bird
there's-
hunting.
What were they hunting with the dogs? That I didn't think
They
it
were
was
bird
pheasant.
hunting. Yeah, they're bird hunting
They're
or
like small game hunting.
small
or something.
game hunting, and then you have waterfowl hunters that go in there, and like, so it's one of those things that puts the pressure on. Like, if they're in that swamp and that buck is bedded in that swamp and he feels uncomfortable with those guys shooting at ducks, like, or they're shooting at small game or rabbits or whatever. I mean, it kind of puts the pressure on and then changes it, and it's just. I don't know. I'm not gonna rule it out. Like we found some great stuff in there that might be a good September hunt. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
until the pressure starts to build on.
Yes, that's one thing that I've learned the last couple of years, and you kind of experience it this year. I got to give a shout out to who crushed this year was actually teammate Lou. Is you find that like we'll call it spot A, where not just your spot A, but anybody's
Yeah.
spot A. Like this is the spot. Like he's killable. And I'm talking public land, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's like opening day or opening week, you're not going to kill him on spot A because everybody hunting that public knows about spot A.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be one step ahead of the game because you have to know where as soon as the pressure's on, where that deer is going to go next, that second layer once the hunting season opens. And that's how Lou killed his second buck. He didn't go to that first spot. He anticipated where the buck was going to go after the pressure.
And I think that's one of those things with mobile hunting, right? Like,
Right.
and as I myself start to mature as a mobile hunter, right? Like, in learning different things is like following that sign, like knowing that the features of what the deer will do when the pressure is put on, and almost hunting your neighbors, right? Like, and this goes not only for mobile public land guys, but private land guys too, where like you can, as long as you pay attention to what is going on with the pressure from other people, like you then know where the deer are going to be. Like sometimes like anticipation, like we do this a ton and we don't even know it. Like as far as like for us, a lot of the public land has a lot of upland hunting in it, right? Where like there's upland fields and guys are going to be dog with dogs running around in there, putting scent in, bumping things around, moving things around. And those normally, like early season, like those are normal CRP fields, right? And so those deer live close to those areas. And as the season progressively goes on and we get into those early teens of October, like they start to pheasant hunt in them. Those deer don't leave, and a lot of
you basically have 6 weeks. September 15th to the third Saturday in October.
Right. But one of the things that a lot of people do is they go, "Oh, they're pheasant hunting there." So like the deer aren't going to be there. Well, let me let you in on a secret. Those deer don't go anywhere. Those deer just use different travels. They're sneaking through in smaller areas. They're not daylighting in those areas or living close to those areas, but they go through there. I promise you that. And there's a lot of areas that I've hunted over the years and even pheasant hunting, but like I know that those deer are in there. Like I'll go in there and hunt those areas. I hunt those thickets inside of it, those pinch points inside of it. Like those deer still travel through there. They're not going to change their total area. They just change their area within their area, I guess, if we could put it that way. Like I know that for a fact. As far as like I used to be a big upland hunter, and like how many times I would run a dog through a swamp on the backside of a bird field and I would bump deer out of it. And it's like, dude, it's almost Thanksgiving. Like those deer didn't leave. Like they're still there.
Right.
They're just a little bit deeper, or they're running the outsides of it, or you know what I'm saying? Like I could name a ton of public land that I could go and shoot a doe on any given day of the week in middle of October during pheasant season, and them deer are still in there. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not going anywhere. They're just moving. Is there going to be a mature buck in there? Maybe not, but there's definitely still deer traffic in there, in my opinion.
Right.
Or you're hunting those bird areas like, we both do it, where we hunt the back sides of these areas that we know, like opening day of pheasant
Right.
season, I'm going to
that's
be
the place
here.
to be. Yeah, because it's a little deer drive going on up
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
That's what I tend to do a little bit more of. So you have like that first layer of bedding closest to those, we'll call them ag fields, right? Which is basically low quality hay for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And the deer have been summer there, all summer they're in those ag fields eating the hay. They're bedding in that first layer of bedding closest to the ag, and that's their daily routine, right? Food to bed, food to bed, food to bed, food to bed. When bird season comes around, shit's gonna get wild, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, there's hunters, there's bird dogs, there's shooting going on, there's people everywhere. I tend to then look for them in that next layer of bedding.
Correct.
The next one farthest away. They're, like you said, they're not going to go far. They just might not use the bedding they use because also no one's screwed with them all summer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
They're
nobody cares
protected.
about deer.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the fishing boats catching stripers. Nobody's thinking about deer. So they're comfortable. The second shit gets wild, all they're going to do is go to the next farthest bedding. And
because they're still going to try and find a local. They know that food source is there. They know the food's there. They're not going to leave that food. Now and in my opinion is that's where they're then daylight. They are nighttime coming into that feed,
right,
because it's longer for them to get from their bedding to the feed. So they're and guys are talking about, oh, I'm only getting nighttime action. Yeah, because you scared them to the next layer.
Right.
In form, right? So like you're then pushing those deer deeper into the woods. So then by the time that they get to the food source where you thought that they've been and you've scouted them for July, August, they're not going to be there. So now you need to go to them. And that's where being mobile puts you into that scenario where, okay, I know that those deer are here at night. Well, how are they getting to there and where are they staging before they get there? Right? And you're just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And once you start to do that and you see the sign and you play the sign together, then now you're actively putting yourself in the position to see those deer constantly in the daylight, right? Like it takes a little bit for it all to click in your head, right? And all in your mind. Like you can look at maps and start to understand it and this, that, and the other thing. And like, it doesn't really put into mind until you have 15 sits in public land and you don't see a deer. And you're like, well, guess what, dude? Now it's time to change your mindset because...
And it also depends on what you're hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're hunting, a 1% caliber, you're trophy hunting. You're after that freak one giant buck.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a little different, right? You can burn some spots and some weird spots and low population of deer. But if you're going to see a deer, it's going to be the deer.
And sometimes with that though, it's almost better to burn those spots and it'll make you kind of better off to find a spot and hunt those spots and find out that they're not good spots. To check the spots off as bad spots than to check you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you have to, right?
What I'm talking about, those spots where you might sit all day and not see shit,
Mm-hmm.
but if you do see something, it's going to be the one you're after.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little different. But if you're just deer hunting, you just want to kill a deer, a doe or spike buck, or if you're not seeing shit, you better move. It's not. Don't
not the
sit
spot.
there day after day after day
No.
hoping that one day a deer is going to come by, and it will happen eventually. One's going to wander by, but if you should be on deer just about every sit, and if you're not, move 100 yards and just start picking that public apart to the next layer, to the next layer, to the next, and eventually you're going to find them.
It brings up a good point too. It makes me think of this is that, we talk about it in scrapes, right? Like scrapes in spots, right? So we're talking about spots and being in the right spot. Well, scrapes are the same way. Like guys are like, oh, I seen a scrape here, so I'm going to hunt this scrape. Well, not every scrape is an active, usable scrape, right? Where like hunting those scrapes, yeah, a deer's probably going to roll by there and you're probably in somewhat of the right area, but not every scrape is a reusable scrape. And I mean this because like sometimes when a deer is in motion and moving from spot to spot, from bedding to bedding, and they're going from those spots, they make the scrapes as they territorial get into an area. That scrape might not get hit for another week. You know what I'm saying? Like you're trying to find hub scrapes or communal scrapes, or you know what I'm saying, where them deer are trafficking constantly. If you're sitting in a spot that we were talking about 2 seconds ago and you're seeing a ton of deer religiously and then you find scrapes, then those scrapes are the scrapes to be hunting. But finding a random scrape in the middle of the woods where you're not seeing deer after putting in a sit or two and not, you know what I'm saying? Do you get where I'm coming from, Steve? I guess
do.
I don't know how to say it properly.
The scrapes is such a complex thing. We could just start over and do a whole podcast on scrapes.
I
But
know.
like, I guess the best way to describe it is the scrapes that aren't worth hunting are those little tiny ones that are like, a foot or two diameter.
Just a
They're
passing
usually like
scrape.
there's usually no licking branch. They're usually not like super clean either. There's still a couple leaves in it. And if you've ever seen a deer make one, is they're cruising through. They're all horned up. They're frustrated. They're looking for does. They're cruising through. They stop. They paw the ground 3-4 times and keep moving. He's probably never going to hit that scrape again. It's just a random, getting some frustration out. The ones that are worth hunting are usually a lot bigger. There's no leaves in it. There's 100% going to be a licking branch, if not 2 or 3 different licking branches off of one tree. And it's not just going to appear overnight. There was a scrape there last year. There was a scrape there the year before. There was a scrape the year before that. That's the scrape that's worth hunting because it's going to be active. It's been active for the scrape that I was talking about, the one that my Moultrie Edge was on this year. That's probably been a scrape for 15 years. You know what I mean? Like it's a permanent scrape.
One of the things that kind of stick out for a scrape like that, and it's funny is we all have community scrapes that we've been hunting for years, right? Guys like that we do this religiously. Like a scrape, I live on a scrape, right? All the time. And one of the things, like I hunt scrapes hard and the right scrapes. And I know that there's the right scrapes because I put a camera on it and have 7 bucks in a night. Like, right. I know that that's the right scrape. But, like, when you roll up to a scrape, and Steve, you said it this year, dude. Like, he's like, dude, I ran up to the scrape and I pawed the ground and it smelled like pneumonia. Like, it was the nastiest thing ever. That's a communal scrape. Like, that's the scrape where there's a difference in ground. Ground level is flat. And there's a 3-inch difference in the ground. That's a communal scrape, and they're giant. And a lot of the times for us in New England is we have a lot of beech trees. So like when you run into a hub area where converging game trails come in, and there's a beech tree, and you see a beech tree, and every hanging branch about 4 feet tall, or that perfect deer height.
Yeah.
Has a scrape underneath it, that's an area you want to hunt because what that means is that there's multiple bucks that are going into the area because they're making scrapes all around that beech tree. And you'll see this a lot in different areas too, but there multiple deer going to that area and one deer that's using the area more than once, right? So they'll come in and make a couple different scrapes, or if you piss them off, you'll make a scrape and then they'll make another scrape next to it underneath that beech tree. So like there's
Right.
certain things that you look for, and that's what kind of made me successful this year. Like
Right.
I rolled up onto a spot. We were e-scouting together. I had Steve on, dude. It's October 25th, and I am like, bro, I've hunted this spot for now a couple of weeks, shot a doe, and the buck is not. The buck should have already been dead. Like in my opinion, at that point, I was in the money. I was on it. I was doing the right thing, and I never seen the buck. And I'm like, something's not right. I need to scout something more. I'm hunting the right scrapes. I'm hunting the right areas. Something's not right. So we start e-scouting, and we get up onto some features, and I'm like, dude, there's no sign here. And then he's like, just keep going. So I kept going, and it was scrape, 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 scrape on a big scrape line all the way up, got up on this flat, and there was one big communal scrape on top of it. And I was like, all right, that's the one. There was a break in the wall on two sides, and there was a scrape in the middle of it. And I go, that's the one. And as I sat there, right, and I set that camera, there were 7 different bucks the first night that I sat there, that I sat that camera there that night. When I sat there 2 days later, when the buck came in,
I thought you sat it the next morning, no?
No, the morning after. So it sat
Okay.
one night, and then I went in the next morning.
Okay, yeah.
When that buck arrived, it was on a scrape line, and it was. I thought he was coming from the other area. I thought he was going to come from the other way, but he came opposite of what I thought. But he made 2 scrapes coming in, and then finally came in. Well, I didn't let him come to that scrape, but he was working his way in. He made 1 scrape as he came through the break in the wall on my front right at 40 yards. Then he came and he made 1 in front of me. I didn't even notice it when I was scouting. And then he was then working towards mine as I shot at him. And then he would have worked down the hill onto that scrape line, because when I had seen him 2 days after I had shot at him, he came up the hill the way I anticipated him to come, working that scrape line in the opposite direction the way that he came the first time. So, like, it was just crazy, right? So when you find those things, they hit them religiously and work on those scrape lines. Like, they live and die on them scrape lines. Like, literally live and die on them scrape lines when they're on them. In that the early November, they live and die on them scrapes. Or late October, right? I mean, like, you see a lot of bucks that live and die on them scrape lines at the early season.
Especially on that food transition, when they like kind of coming off the egg and the acorns are starting to drop. And you go check the oak flats for acorns dropping. If there's fresh scrapes that are just open up, you better hunt it right now. While
yeah, don't wait
right now. But I wanted to backtrack a little bit and touch on a point that you kind of were on. The beech trees. Scrapes and beech trees in our area go hand in hand, right? So if you're scouting and you come on this beautiful oak flat and there's beech trees and there's no scrapes,
you're not in the right area.
Moving.
Look for another beech tree, buddy.
Yeah, there's beech trees in an oak flat, and there will be scrapes under those beech trees. If you check the beech trees, if you do not find scrapes, you're on the wrong oak flat. Just go to the next oak flat and then the next one until you find beech trees with scrapes. That's the spot to be. And I think sometime, I could be wrong, but I think some people get hung up on how the woods look. Like, oh, this is a beautiful spot. This is a beautiful oak flat. It looks deery, right? Like, this is a beautiful place to kill a buck. And it's just not. If the signs, the sign don't lie, right? There's either sign there there could be multiple reasons why they're not there, because there'll be oaks, there'll be acorns, right? At some point, deer are going to use that oak flat. Maybe it's relationship to bedding, maybe it's relationship to pressure. There could be multiple factors. But if you're on an oak flat with beech trees and there's no scrapes, just go to the next one. You're just wasting your time sitting there.
So one of the things, and as we're getting into this postseason scouting and something, for you guys to take away from this is, and with the beech tree thing, right? When I'm postseason scouting and like at this time, season's closing, I'm shed hunting with the dog, I'm in the woods, I'm postseason scouting, I'm looking for that rut sign. I'm looking at beech trees, and I'm going, and one of the things with big communal beech tree scrapes, 95% of the time, them big beeches, they will absolutely massacre them, where they're hitting the trunks of those beech trees and rubbing on them. Them big mature bucks, you'll see it a ton, where you're now looking for that, that generational rubbing on and rub in the scraping on those beech trees, where they're coming into those beech trees and they're making those scrapes, and there's a couple different scrapes and they'll be full of leaves, right? But you'll see the indentations of them, and then on the trunks of those beech trees you will see the rubs on them, and they will hit those beech trees. I don't know what it is. One of the other things to look for, if you guys get into a cedar patch, cedar trees. Huge, big, mature bucks, man. Something about cedar trees and that's what it was for me. And I know I might be spilling too many beans, but spot A for me when we were talking about this.
Someone's gonna know where you're at.
I don't care. Come
Someone's on
on
hunt
in.
stand right now.
Yeah,
and
go
they're
ahead.
like, "Oh, Lord,
Bring
this
it
is
on,
the
bro.
good
I already
trip
got
spot."
it figured out, and I already know what's going on. That deer will be dead way before you get there. One of the things is I got in there and I found cedar trees. There was a cedar patch. I got in there, and these old cedar trees had rubs on them, just generational rubs on them on the cedar trees. And a lot of the times you see with big bucks, man, one thing I've learned from guys that are big mature buck hunters, mature deer in the Northeast love cedar trees. You see it, and I saw it when I was doing taxidermy full time. These big mature bucks, when you smell their antlers, they smell like cedars. And I don't know what it is. If you find big mature cedar trees that have been gotten after, they're from mature bucks. Hands down, in my opinion. And so I found those. So beech trees and cedar trees are the two things that I look for in postseason scouting. If I can find rubs on those trees, now I am now doing the math to figure out how they're getting in there, why that rub line is, where they're coming from, and where they're going, and why they're there. So as you get into your shed season and your postseason scouting, those are those things. Those are the starting points. I'm looking for old rubs, old scrapes, and I'm looking for that rut sign that was there in November. I'm now there in February, so I'm 2 months out, but I know to
Right.
be back there in November because
Right.
I know that that's
Yeah.
where they're going to be. It's a good starting ground, right? So that as you
Yeah.
start to get into the season, now you get into the Septembers and you start to go there and the end of September, early October, and those scrapes are starting to open up. Now you know you're in the right spot, right? Because they'll start to hit them. And then as the season progresses, if they start to open up even more, and I'm moving around inside of those spots looking for, big scrapes. In those spots, when I'm coming in, I'll just change my avenue just a little bit and I'll see, okay, they're here. Those bucks are working this area. You know what I'm saying? And like
Yeah.
they're here, and that's what I'm going to keep on hunting. And then you just kind of put it all together, man. And it's just a mapping for. You're not going to get lucky on the first try. It's just a learning experience. And I fucked up so many hunts because of it, but you learn. And one of the things when you get keyed into an area, right? Like that was one of my things, like very low foot traffic this year. And I just like all my eggs were in one basket. I'm like, okay, he's here. I know he's here. But I don't want to go over that ridge and I don't want to go over there to find out what's there. Yeah, I could go and hunt it, but like I don't want to. I'm secure where I am. And like so that's where the postseason scouting is going to come into effect.
Yeah.
And you just kind of play it out, man. It's not
Well-
you can't do it overnight.
Right. I'm huge postseason is my favorite time of the year, to be honest with you. Even before sheds are even dropped. Like I love to get in there. All those places I avoided during the season and didn't want to overpressure, like picking it apart. But the big thing to do is like you kind of hit on, is if you can find historical rut sign, find a kill tree now when there's no leaves on the trees. Think about your winds, your prevailing winds that you're going to get in that late October, November, northwest winds. Find kill trees where those winds are going to work on that sign. now, January, February, getting into March. Pin them, mark them. You can go back to those trees. You can prep them. You can climb them, whatever, cut shooting lanes, get all those trees situated. Even if you don't know what's there for a buck, you don't even know yet, right?
Right.
So then when you drop your camera in, say, July, when a buck shows up that you want to target, you already know where you can kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Once he shows up, you're
He's
done.
done.
You're done. You already did your scouting. You've already got trees picked out for a deer you didn't know existed. And you do this in multiple areas. Then all you need is for a buck to show up in one of those spots, and your homework is done. All you gotta do is wait for the season to start.
Now you know it's game over.
What I feel like some people get trapped into, I've done it before, happens to everybody, is you do a little bit of scouting. You didn't pick any trees, you didn't prep any trees. You just found some sign. You drop your cameras, a shooter shows up, and you're like, oh my God, there's a giant here. I want to hunt this deer. Well, now you have to go back in there. And now you have to like pre-season scout. You got to find what tree you're going to hang. You didn't pin any trees. You're going in blind, which can work, right? But if you do all that homework before the buck even shows up, it's just a waiting game for the season to start. You already know what tree you're going to go to, and it's game on.
And that's what you need to do. Oh, well, now that we kind of went off the rails on it, but I think it was a good topic to set on, to be honest with you, because people are kind of getting ready for it. It's the new year, and what are they gonna do for new year, new me, new you, right? Like, how are we gonna do it? You know what I'm saying? And I think that it's a good thing, and I hope that someone can take a really good thing about it. I'm excited for the new year, man. I think that we have a lot of, as a whole in the Outdoor Drive, I think we have a lot of really good things coming about that you guys will see as the season starts and progressively comes on, and show season is about to be here. We'll start talking about those. We're going to kick it off and do a couple different things changing here on the Outdoor Drive. Like, we have a lot of big plans. 2023 was going to be our big year, and that did not happen because we got kicked in the shins every single time we tried to do something. But you know what? It is what it is. Go ahead, Stevie.
Sometimes I wonder. I think everybody gets kicked in the shins. We're just open to talk about it.
I'm not afraid to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of, as you guys all know, like, everything looks good on the outside. Everything looks great, man. But I'll tell you, dude,
butter, baby.
There's a podcast. There's good things going. The content's out, right?
But like, must be nice to have your own podcast, man.
I'll tell you this, man. If it wasn't for Elmer's glue and wood glue and sawdust, we wouldn't have 2x4s, man. It's just the way that it goes, man.
Little Scotch tape.
It's good though. You know what? We're blessed. We're blessed with the opportunity to be here. We're blessed to have a podcast, to have the friends that we have, the listenership that we have, the good things that we have going on, and it's just another year, man. You can't shoot your target buck every single year, and that's the way that I look at it. Is next year's the new year. We're gonna shoot that target buck, dude, and we're gonna take it to the next level, and we're excited. And putting all the things together, and once again, we can't thank every single one of you guys that listen in every single week and kind of work with us and correspond with what's going on as far as like the Outdoor Drive family on Facebook and all the good things that we try to put together. I know we've been kind of slacking on it, but things have changed for us, right? And we'll still do those things, and we have a lot coming on. 2024 is going to kind of set the pace for what's to come. We have a new business endeavor in the works here. I can't go too much into it. We've been working on that for a little bit, but we'll see what ends up happening. But once again, I can't thank every single one of you guys that have supported us throughout the year. And if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a podcast. I mean, that's the truth. What are you smiling about, Stevie?
Are you wrapping up?
I mean, I can.
I had a question for you.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
It's the end of the year. It's been a long year, and I was just wondering, Trev, what drives you outdoors?
Dude, you know what? It never changes for me, right? What drives me outdoors is man. it's still the same thing, right? But it kind of changes from day to day, right? The thing that drives me outdoors is the opportunity to be able to do this and be in the great outdoors every single day of my life, right? And surround myself with it, whether it's fishing or hunting or trapping or whatever the case may be. But the thing that keeps me going on the most, honestly, is this: the podcast, the camaraderie, the friendships, the people. When I hear from or I meet up with somebody and have a conversation, right? And there's so many times that like I've been just kind of like throw my hands in the air and I'm like, it's gonna get a little raw. And I'm like, fuck this, dude. I don't want to have a podcast. I don't want to have a YouTube page. I'm sick and tired of filming. I'm sick and tired of podcasting. This fucking sucks. It's a lot of work.
Stress.
It's stressful as shit trying to get people, trying to add it all up, and everybody thinks it's easy, and the jealousy that comes along with it, and the bullshit, and the people talking crap. There's a lot of that goes on, and I don't let it get into my skin, right? I just think about it, and sometimes it pisses me off, and I'm like, I don't know why the fuck I even do this, right? And then I get a message from somebody, and somebody says to me, Trev, you said something the other day on the podcast, man, and it made me successful in the outdoors. Or hey, man, it's really cool that you did this, and I'm gonna come fishing with you, and I get to spend the time with them on the boat, or whatever the case may be, man. And those little things, they kind of just shut out the rest of the bullshit that comes along with it, right? And it's just like, that's why I do it. That's what drives me to keep doing this. Is the people and the friendships and the heartache that come along with it. Like, there's so many good things that come along with everything when you do this. And like, it's funny is my girlfriend was, she's a bartender, right? And there was a couple and this is kind of crazy and kind of stupid, but she works at a bar, right? And some of my friends came into the acquaintances come into the bar, and they're sitting at the bar, and it's tough sometimes, like, to kind of like describe like what we do, right? Like, nobody ever really understands like why we do what we do or what drives us, right? And so these kids were sitting down there, a little bit younger than me, the local dudes or whatever, and I had just left, and she came home and she was like, it's really cool to hear, other people talk about you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, after you left, them boys were talking about you on how like you travel all the time, you're constantly hunting, you're going to all these shows, you're an amazing fisherman, all this stuff, and it's really cool to hear that. And I'm like, what are you really, like, they said that? What did they say? So she went into detail on it, and I'm like, that's why I do it. Because you change that person's perspective, right? And they're going to go out and they're going to go and do it. Like, and I've seen it over the years, right? Where like I went and I public land hunted in the Midwest, or I went and I Sika hunted, or I went and did this, or I went and did that because I wanted to do it. And then there was a ton of other people that kind of realized that it's not that hard, or it's very achievable to be able to do it. And you kind of like set that precedence, and it just makes you want to do it even more, I guess, right? Like, if that makes any sense, because like there's days that I just like, I'm like, fuck this sucks, dude. Like, this
Every other day.
sucks, man. Like, this sucks, and you get shit. Or one of the people that kind of stick out to me is Ken D, man.
Yeah.
Hugely. Ken will text me, man, hey, Merry Christmas. Like, bro, he don't owe me nothing. Like, he's just a good dude, genuinely, who's a listener of the podcast, who, or ask me, hey, man, I seen this buck in this field. Like, where do you think that he would be? Or where, you know what I'm saying? And, like, asking my opinion. Like, bro, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm nobody. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I guess that's what drives me, man. It's just the people, the camaraderie, the friendships, the people that I've been able to hunt with and fish with and travel with and learn from. Like, that's what drives me. How about you, bro? I know it's very long-winded, but I guess New Year's, I guess we can do that, right?
100%. So mine doesn't change a whole lot either, but I think it did change this year. So normally my answer would be, my big answer on a personal level is the challenge, right?
Mhm.
I like to endure and put myself through as much misery as I possibly can.
Of course you do.
And that's why I choose to hunt the way I choose to hunt. That's why I choose to hunt the properties that I hunt, and I chase the deer that I hunt, because I want it as hard as possible. Because I mean, even in today's day and age, life's pretty easy. Like, we bitch and moan about the economy sucks and it's expensive to live and everything. So, like work and life and how hard it is. Dude, life's easy in 2023. There's food at the grocery store. There's money in the bank. You're not going out and, you don't have to hunt to survive. Your success, whether you have a successful hunt or not, doesn't mean you're going to starve. You can go to the McDonald's and get some chicken nuggets, right? But I just think it's important as human beings to challenge yourself every day, and there's nowhere I can find more of a challenge than trying to chase big mature deer with the bow. But now, is my battery going to die? Hold on one sec. Pause this. I just got to plug this in. Hold on. Sorry, guys.
What happened, dude? You're in the middle of a conversation, Stevie. Like, are you serious? Like, this is what we get. You're in the intellectual what drives you outdoors, Steve, and this is what you decided to do? Come on.
My computer wasn't plugged in.
Oh my
Not the techie guy. All right, I'm back. But now it's, I'm new to the podcast, right? It's been a year and a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So this was all new to me. You've been doing it for a long time. And like you said, it's not easy. It looks easy on the outside as a listener, as a follower. Every week you get to press play and listen to the podcast, and not to get too deep into it and have like a pity party, but like there's a lot of coordination that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of planning and lining up guests and who we're going to get next week, and that's on top of work and regular life and all that stuff. But like you said, when you go to a show, Kendy's a perfect example. I met Ken at the Springfield show last year. I didn't know who he was. You knew who he was. I didn't. And he comes over with the biggest smile and he's like, "Madman, what's up?" And I'm like, "Hey, who the fuck are you?" Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? And they're just, people just want to tell you their story, show you their success, bring up things that you said on the podcast. And I'm like, I said that? Like,
Yeah.
Are you sure I said that? And it's humbling, but at the same time, it's a reminder of why you do it. Because, it's easy for us to just jump on the computer on a Thursday night, hit record, and talk into a microphone and just talk shit and have fun. You forget there's people that actually listen. And when you meet those people and you share stories with them and pictures, and remember we were at Mohegan Sun and that little kid wanted their picture taken with us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, like I said, I'm new to this. Why does this kid wants a picture with me? Like, who am I? Like you said, I'm a nobody. But, those are the days where you're like, that's why we do this. That's what, you know what I mean? And like you said, the days where it gets very frustrating and there's other things going on in life that, arguably could be more important than this.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to just say, screw it, like this isn't even worth it anymore. Something like that happens and reminds you why you do it and why it is worth it
And what
and
it's for.
why we're not going to stop.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think there's a better way to end the podcast, Stevie, but bro, why don't you close us out this week?
Well, just want to say thanks for tuning in. Have a happy new year. We will see you next year. And everybody, thanks for taking the ride right here on Outdoor Drive.